Hi, welcome everybody to this crash course on the subject of lean material management, and specifically as it applies to mixed model line design or mixed model material management. I'm Richard Rahn with the Leonardo Group, and I'm here with
Gerard Leone with Leonardo Group 2. Thank you, all of you, for being here. And make yourselves comfortable. Grab a comfy chair, grab a cup of coffee, because we're going to be moving at a pretty good rate of speed. During this first video, we're going to be talking about the justification for a good set of processes and procedures for mixed model materials management. It's sort of understanding the why this matters. Then we're going to go into the what, meaning what are the steps? What is the roadmap to develop a solid mixed model materials management process that can deliver the right materials at the right time in the right container? And we'll get to talk about the 7 rights during the next lesson.
There's one thing for sure when it comes to materials that we've noticed over the last, more than 20 years of doing this, and that is that when it comes to materials are the biggest issue facing most factories. There are a lot of things that could go wrong, and when we go out on the factory floor and talk to people about what their problems are, we hear a lot of different things, but without a doubt, the issue of materials and a variety of issues that come up related to them is the number one feedback that we get. It's not we don't know how to build a product or people make too many mistakes. Those things can happen, but mainly it's suppliers, outside suppliers, either not delivering on time or late or the wrong stuff, or internally getting the parts from where they need to be stored to the point where they need to be consumed. Seems to be the biggest issue.
Not just in the factory. The factory is just one place. Everywhere we work, hospitals, administrative settings, when it comes to what is your number one complaint, it will come back in one form or another back to materials management. It may be medical supplies, it may be nuts and bolts, but it always comes back to being the number one concern people have are not having the right materials when they need them.
Now, fortunately, there are some models of excellence out there, companies that are doing it right, and while there's no completely perfect environment, there are organizations that have adopted a set of tools and ways of doing things that reduce those kind of heartaches and headaches significantly. And so the main point of this course is to share those with you. What are the best practices, in other words, related to material management, and what does it take to adopt those yourself? So you might be wondering then, how are we, Gerard and myself, qualified to talk about these things? So let me give you a little bit about my background. Gerard can share his background as well. Prior to doing this kind of work, in fact, my first real job in manufacturing was as a material manager. I rose through the ranks a little bit, but pretty quickly was the material manager of an aerospace company here in Colorado. So I was dealing with the unique problems related to aerospace. For example, high mix and low volume environment. After all, how many airplanes are actually built every year? Not that many relative to cars or other kinds of products. So in our company, we had a lot of different products, but not that many of each. And I'm sure some of you listening to this can relate to that as well. So that was part of our struggle. So while I was a material manager with this aerospace company, I got my APIC certification. Some of you may have that as well in inventory and production management. And around 1989, started my lean journey. So a whole bunch of us from this aerospace company went to a lean training class. This was before lean was even lean, called lean. It was called just in time, or it was called flow manufacturing. And all of us, I think, in that group really fell in love with this and felt like there was a great potential for us to really do things better. And there were. In '94, I launched my lean career full-time. So I joined a consulting company, and this is where I first met Gerard here. And from that point forward until today, almost every lean project that we work on has some material component. So we've done this, I don't know how many times, Gerard. It's not thousands probably. It's more than dozens, hundreds maybe of projects.
Oh yeah.
And virtually everyone has some kind of material, content, issue, design. So that's our background. We've really had a chance to get our hands dirty on these issues and work through lots of different environments: high mix, low volume, automotive, electronics, and even hospitals more recently. So Gerard, you want to share your background?
Yeah, my path, very parallel to Richard, started as a planning engineer back in my home country, Argentina. I worked at a factory where we built big things, power transformers and road graders and things like that. So being in the planning department, we were in production planning and materials planning. So all those bad words that sometimes we don't want to say out loud, the K word, kids and materials allocation and stealing each other's materials, all those things, done them all. And as a matter of fact, I have under my belt 3 MRP implementations we did back in the day, with my first one being a Mapix on a System 36. And I assume most of you don't even know what that is. So it's been a long time. I do have, however, a lot more consulting experience than Richard. By the time Richard was hired, I had been on the job for 3 months. So it felt like a lifetime.
Okay. Now, I should mention too, Gerard and I teach a lean material management workshop at Toyota Material Handling. Not to Toyota, but they're gracious enough to host us there. And we do that several times a year. And that's been a regular for, maybe 4 years or so already.
More like 6.
More, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll have to say we've learned a lot there as well. A chance to actually, partner with one of the premier lean companies, clearly, and also one of the leading plants in North America, and see how they're doing things and incorporate a lot of that into our knowledge and into our practice as well.
And that is part of the 3-day workshop. Unfortunately, we cannot teach you in these 3 short lessons, but part of the workshop is taking folks on 2 tours of the plant, during which we actually don't. Our hosts explain their materials management methodology, and that is what we teach in class. So that is a very special class. We don't do too many of them. We do a couple of them a year. Also, we do a couple of line design classes a year at Toyota. We do not do too many of those. We are beginning to deliver the majority of our content online.
So this course will be a accelerated version of this 3-day class. We'll be taking the key concepts of that 3-day workshop and compressing it into this 3-lesson course. So be prepared for that, again, to drink from the fire hose.
But we will take the time to explain the roadmap. That is what the next lesson is going to be. It's all going to be about the roadmap. So buckle up.
Yeah.
Let's get on.
Let's go. Okay, so let's give you a case history, an example of why this is so important, and the kind of transformation you can actually experience by implementing some of these methods and ways of thinking. And we have literally dozens of examples we could have come up with, but here's one that really jumped out in my mind because it was so simple. It was one of the earliest ones that I experienced, lean material management successes. And it really stuck with me because it really wasn't that hard. It was like an easy win and pretty significant. So here's the story. This is a California company making blood glucose monitors. The handheld ones that you would have to test your blood sugar. And pretty fast line. I mean, there are a lot of these apparently in use. They were coming off the line, I think a sub 1 minute tack time.
17-second tack time to be precise.
Sorry, yeah. So several per minute, right? Three per minute or so. So a lot of these were coming off the line, and our job was to help them with the flow, line balance, and of course the material presentation was really critical. As you know, with medical products, you have to maintain traceability. You can't mix lots. There were additional challenges to using a traditional Kanban system. So we were able to overcome all that. But one of the things we noticed was that the lines that we were helping design were building to a forecast. So the MRP system, presumably, and sales and marketing comes up with a forecast of need, and then that product was going into a finished goods warehouse, and then from there to various distribution centers and customers. So what we did was we went into the finished goods area, which is not usually where we start on a material management project, but we went to the finished goods area and set up a finished goods Kanban. So in other words, as finished goods, as these glucose blood meters are sold or shipped, then they would be replaced by the line up to a certain level. And the one gotcha is that the line, when they fill this inventory, would have to stop. So this idea of running all the time, running the line all the time, and filling up the warehouse with product was sort of a cultural change for these folks. But here's the bottom line. We went from $8 million in finished goods down to $2 million in finished goods with no impact on customer deliveries or lateness. On-time delivery was not impacted at all. And essentially what that did was that took $6 million, and as soon as it had been shipped, they didn't have to replace it. So that gave this company $6 million in cash, essentially, that was in inventory on the balance sheet, and now it was transferred over to the cash line on the balance sheet. So pretty sweet deal for them. I mean, no negative impact other than they had to maintain that discipline of not overbuilding. So that was a great one, and we were just amazed at how easy it was, frankly, to achieve that.
And Richard made a very interesting comment there that is not a place where most lean practitioners start, and sometimes I believe that's a mistake. And also it's interesting that this is a lesson that we learned early in our careers, and that gave us a chance to implement finished goods Kanban many times over. We've done it with any of our clients that do consumer products that have to build to finished goods. We have implemented finished goods Kanban, and always with great results because it's a really low risk proposition.
Yeah, I mean, you're raising a great point, Gerard. Some of us, I mean, in the ideal lean world, you're not producing to a forecast, you're building to customer orders. For example, Toyota Material Handling in Columbus, Indiana, the place where we've spent some time, they do not build fork trucks and hope someone's going to buy them. They are building to customer order exclusively. And they have about close to a 2-month backlog of orders from which to draw and from which to level the production schedule. But they do not build to speculation, essentially. But if you have a consumer product where you can't really wait until you receive the order, or you've lost it. You go into a supermarket to buy a can of soup. You're not going to place your order with Campbell's and then wait a few weeks to get the can of soup. If it's not there, you're going to buy something else, some other brand. And
not even wait a few minutes to get the can of soup.
Yeah.
Won't wait at all. If it is not there, you buy somebody else's.
Right, so zero lead time. So in those environments, the supplier, the Campbell Soup, would have to build to some kind of forecast, correct? But finished goods Kanban is a way of regulating that or controlling that as opposed to pushing forecast into a finished goods warehouse. So that was a great example. The blood glucose monitor is a great example of success with that strategy.
And again, this points out the fact that there is a lot of money in materials. There is a great opportunity to be realized in materials. Just stop and think for a minute. What is the cost of your product? Pick a number. Is it $100? Of those $100, what percentage of that is labor, materials, and overhead? You know the answer to that, right? Normally, is going to be materials around 2/3 to maybe 3/4 of the total cost. Yet, many of us in the management world want to go after labor. Well, we'll leave that for another video. But where you need to focus is on materials, on optimizing the amount of inventory. Now, notice I'm on purpose not using the word reducing. It's not about lowering the water to expose the rocks. That's not the way it needs to be done. It needs to be designed. The materials system must be designed no different from a line design, and it must be balanced based on time standards, based on a proper design. So that's what we're after. Understanding what is the cost of your product, understanding what percentage of that is materials, and from there realizing that there is a lot of money and there is a great opportunity to be realized in materials.
Yeah, the biggest asset on your balance sheet for most companies, there are some exceptions, but for most companies, the biggest asset, so-called asset on the balance sheet is materials, inventory of various types, raw material, work in process inventory, finished goods inventory. That's the biggest one. Unless you're somebody like Apple Computer or Microsoft, or maybe your biggest asset is cash. But for most other normal companies, it's inventory.
For the rest of us mortals.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can take a part of that inventory, dollars, which is a big number, and convert that to cash, not have to replace the inventory, in other words, produce the same volume of products with less inventory on hand, then you've just freed up a lot of cash, freed up working capital, and a huge benefit for the company. You know, most companies, especially startups, go out of business not because they don't have good products or not because they don't have customers. It's because they run out of cash is what happens. So the more you can reduce your dependence on working capital, instead of investing in inventory, you can free it up for other purposes, the better, as far as most companies are concerned.
So what do we have? We have the highest percentage of your cost, materials. We have the number one complaint from all your associates and everybody in the plant, materials. And we also have the largest portion of your balance sheet, materials. I think we made the case, right? So with that in mind.
Yeah, I hope we're convinced now.
Excellent.
Okay, so let's be proactive and share with you some of the objections that we've heard over the years. We probably heard them all, wouldn't you say, Gerard?
Absolutely. So we're gonna handpick here a few objections that we are assuming that you're going to raise, and then we're going to give you a chance to raise some of your own. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, so here's one for us to contemplate. Very common statement. We've tried Kanban in the past, and results have been mixed or hasn't worked.
Never heard that one.
Yeah. So how different is what you're teaching? In other words, what can you tell me that's different, or what was the reason for that failure?
What's the magic in your Kanban system?
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you right now, none. There is no magic in Kanban. Kanban is work. Kanban is just one tool in the mixed model material management tool bag. Just one tool. Now you're going to hear us repeating Kanban many times. It doesn't mean it's the only tool. There will be many other ways of delivering the right material in the right time, in the right container, in the right quantity. That is what we're after. If you build road graders, and each road grader potentially could have a different engine, you're not going to have a selection of engines in front of you. The engines are going to be delivered one at a time according to today's production schedule. That is not Kanban, right? That is production sequencing. That's another tool. So what normally happens to those who claim to have tried Kanban and couldn't make it work is that first, the system probably was not designed. What they did, they put out there a few containers, they calculated some quantities, and then they hope it would happen. It doesn't happen based on hope. It happens based on a design. So you must design it, and then a very substantial portion of what Kanban is all about is the discipline. And that, I would say, wouldn't you agree, Richard? That's probably a number one reason why any system, not just Kanban, any system fails.
Yeah, but the thing about Kanban, when we talk about discipline, is not that it's so hard. It's just that you have to be consistent and constant. So who was that, Deming? Constancy of purpose.
There you go.
So if you don't have it's not that it's so hard to take a card and put it in a container, but constancy of purpose is critical. You can't pick it up and do it sometimes.
Exactly right. Every day. Try it all the time. So the next objection, normally it comes back, and we hear this in class a lot, folks that come to class in the hopes of finding some remedy to what ails them, and that is they live in a high mixed low volume environment. So if that's the case, can these tools apply to me? Because Kanban is not going to fix that problem. And again, it's not a problem, it's just the way you live. Will Kanban work? Yes. However, to a much lesser degree that it will work on a low mix, high volume environment. In a low mix, high volume environment, you will probably be doing Kanban at a rate of probably 80% of all your parts. And the higher the mix, the lower the volume, you will do less Kanban. But still, you will be doing some of it. So do these tools work? Designing a mixed model material management system work for a high mix, low volume environment? Absolutely yes.
Okay, so what we're talking about here is aerospace is a classic example. Medical products could be an example of high mix, low volume. Some industrial products probably fit in that category where you have a lot of different variants of a product family.
For each industrial product that you think of, there is always some specialty product, right? When we spend quite a bit of time at the plant, at the Toyota plant in Columbus, Indiana, where they build around 150 fork trucks a day. But we also had a client building 4 fork trucks a day. However, these were not fork trucks. They looked like fork trucks, but they're container pickers.
Fork monsters.
Exactly. These are fork monsters, right? In that case, can you think about the mix and the volume? Very low volume, very high mix. They all vary from one to the other because they're specified almost to the country where they're going to be delivered. And the tools do apply there too.
Okay, so I guess the answer to that number 2 is just pick the right tool, right? Pick the right method. It needs to make sense.
Design. That's where you need to go. Design. Don't throw things together and hope they work.
Okay, here's another one for us. How important are good inventory systems and records? Can Kanban help overcome challenges? So I think what's being alluded to here is the fact that, or the question, the wish maybe, that by using Kanban, we don't have to maintain high inventory accuracy. Because if the container is empty, we refill it. And we don't have to worry about our computer records so much. So I think we need to disavow the person asking this question of that notion, because this is not true.
Why wouldn't you want to have good inventory records, high inventory record accuracy, or complete and accurate bill of materials? Why wouldn't you want to? Now, is it true that Kanban will overcome some of those efficiencies because the system says that you still have 150 pieces on the floor, but the Kanban container is empty? You replenish based on the Kanban container. So yes, Kanban can overcome some of those deficiencies, but that should be for you a signal to go to your next Kaizen. What's your next Kaizen? Taking a look at the bill of materials for that product that caused that virtual shortage. Go fix that. But don't think that that is a sustainable situation. Having bad inventory records will catch up with you.
And remember, even if you're the leanest of the lean, you're probably still using your MRP system to order outside materials, right? Communicate with outside suppliers. And that MRP system is relying on the accuracy of your inventory records. So you may have a bulletproof process within the 4 walls of your factory, but if the material doesn't arrive on time from the outside, then you have the same problem or worse.
So I think we're ready for a book recommendation here that is not one of ours, right? Get yourself a copy of Inventory Record Accuracy. Good book. Is it published by Apex? Is it an Apex?
No. Roger Brooks is the author.
Yeah.
And the subtitle of the book is Unleashing the Awesome Power of Cycle Counting.
You gotta love that subtitle. Yeah. But
awesome
get yourself, yeah. Only one of us can think that cycle counting is awesome. So get yourself a copy. That's a really good book, and get good inventory record accuracy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's a classic in our library. We keep it close at hand. Okay, so in this lesson, we've given you some whys and some case histories and some objections that we've heard. So we're just laying the groundwork here for what's to come. And in the next lesson, we'll be talking about the what. So what are the tools, what are the methods that are unique, let's say, to a lean way of running and managing materials. So give you a snap preview of some of those topics that we'll be talking about. Includes topics like plan for every part, designing delivery routes, the several different methods of Kanban that you may want to consider.
How to shortage-proof your line.
Yeah, shortage-proofing your line I think will be a real eye-opener. So very cool stuff, and you'll want to make sure you attend that next one. You'll be getting an email in a few days.
And I'm sure that is the one you're waiting for because, quite frankly, on this first video, we're explaining the why. In other words, we're trying to convince you that this is a good idea as if you needed convincing. If you're watching this video, you know that materials management is a big deal and there are many opportunities behind a solid mixed model materials management design.
Right, so the next one, you're going to be leaving this next lesson with a list of things you can actually go out and do and implement. So that's going to be really powerful. So cool stuff, and stay tuned. One more thing before we go on this lesson. There's space on this page to add some comments. We'd like to see them. We'd like to hear from you. So go ahead and just post your impression of this lesson, didn't like, and more importantly, if you have any questions for us to think about and respond to, just post them right here on this page.
Yeah, on this first lesson, we went just back to the memory banks and pulled some questions we heard in class. We would like to get the opportunity to answer some of your questions. So make sure that you do post them on this page, your questions, your comments, we want to hear them, and we want to see you next time on lesson 2, where we're going to explain the mixed model line design road.
Okay, so look for that email, and we'll see you in a couple days.
Thank you. Bye.